Hi everyone. For people who don't know me, I'm Janine Tanner from Envirosure, the Managing Director. And welcome to our webinar. This will be our new way of interacting with you over the next few weeks or months, depending on the lockdown periods. And we are going to be accrediting these webinars to give you the CVD points. And we'd like you to engage with us on a weekly, if not monthly basis.
I'm Adele Hartley, the General Manager of Envirosure. In this presentation, we're going to go through two interesting HazChem claim scenarios. UN-listed goods are commodities that pose a significant risk to human and/or environmental health. Thus, they are classified for easy identification. In the first claim scenario, we'll be discussing an acid tanker incident. Acid is one of the most common commodities on our roads besides fuel. What makes this incident unusual is that it wasn't an acid tanker overturning or a spill on the side of the road. It was a chemical reaction at a wash bay. The wash bay was located in a traditionally industrial area. Whilst the truck was being washed, between the driver and the assistants at the wash bay, they thought it would be a good idea to clean out the inside of the tanker. Unaware that the tanker still actually had quite a significant volume of acid in, they put a hose pipe with water into the tanker. Almost instantly, there was a massive chemical reaction when the water was added to the acid. Acid cloud plumes immediately emitted from the tanker. An instant chemical reaction was quite severe. The product had started to erode to the side of the tanker almost immediately. At this stage that the reaction seemed quite significant, HazCorp was notified immediately. Response teams were on site within record time. The first step was to try to contain the spillage as much as possible. The team immediately got to site and started containment measures. As this was a wash bay, there were significant amounts of water already that were affected by the acid runoff, as well as the sump and separator system, which had been contaminated. With regards to the tanker, there was still quite an adverse chemical reaction occurring. Acid cloud plumes were still being emitted into the air, as well as quite a violent reaction within the tanker. The water mixed with the acid was causing a heat reaction, so the product was almost bubbling inside the tanker, as well as eroding the whole side of the tanker, causing vast amounts of the acid water to plunge out on the side. Full containment measures were set up around the truck, ensuring the safety of all the responders and people in the area. Whilst the teams were containing the actual tanker, additional response teams were dealing with the existing contamination, trying to neutralize the acid as quickly as possible with lime. The team started manual excavation to remove the highly impacted soil for safe disposal. Whilst the spill was being mapped, it was noted that some of the runoff acid water had gone under the wall and into an adjacent property. The strong odours of the acid cloud were causing a huge concern with the local community and industries. Notably, there was a food manufacturing plant in close proximity who were extremely concerned that this could impact the quality of their food. Back onto the spill site, there were still quite large puddles of acid water runoff. Pump systems were set up to remove this product and store it in IBCs. Due to the public concerns, the Department of Health was also involved in this claim, as well as Environmental Affairs. The spill response now involved various teams dealing with different aspects of the claim, mainly the main wash bay area, the runoff puddles, the sump separator system, as well as the area between the adjacent properties, all working as fast as possible to try and mitigate the spillage. There was quite a bit of a time constraint on this, as this was a truck wash bay. The owner of the property wanted to start using and operating their property as soon as possible. Whilst the extensive cleanup efforts were going on, they had to halt all their operations. Due to the severity of this incident and the various departments involved, we did appoint an independent environmental consultant to assist us with impartial guidance on how to successfully rehabilitate the site and mitigate the risk to any human health. All heavily contaminated soil and puddles were removed. On-site rehabilitation of the soil via lime neutralization was then further conducted. Soil and pH samples had to be conducted throughout the site along the flow path to ensure that we had successfully neutralized or removed any contamination. We've recently revisited the site to double check that there's no long-term impacts. The truck stop has been operating. The owner is quite happy with how the site looks. He has opted to do his own backfilling and compacting of the mild excavated areas. The second incident was a fuel tanker that caught alight on the N2 just past the Fairbreeze off-ramp. The fire was as a result of an impact with a general goods truck. The blaze was extreme, and there's many videos that were circulated online about this massive tanker fire. Due to the magnitude and volatility of the blaze, the response and other emergency teams had to stand back until the fire had burnt down and the fire department was able to successfully extinguish the flames. By the time the response team was able to respond, the tanker was completely burnt out and all that was left was the burnt out shell. The response team did immediate site assessment to establish if there were any drains that were impacted or nearby water sources. Various teams were on site with different functions, immediately trying to contain any spillage and assess any environmental impact. Fortunately, most of the product had burnt away. Once the product had cooled that had remained in the bottom of the tanker, fast tanks were set up to safely remove the product, which allowed for the wreckage to be safely towed away. The scale and magnitude of this incident resulted in the freeway being completely closed. As this freeway was closed off, you've got time constraints on your emergency responders, as they will be pressurized to open that road as soon as it's safe. The incident required extensive response teams to help swiftly clear the road. The road needed to be cleared of the wreckages, any burnt out hydrocarbons, as well as the third-party truck, which needed to have its cargo removed. Skips were brought to site immediately to safely store any goods that needed to be further disposed of. All notable contamination was removed from site. There is, however, an area of contamination on the roadside that does require further excavation. Due to the limitations imposed by the roads department, excavation will be conducted to the level that is permitted. Thereafter, remediation agents will be applied and the site will be backfilled. Due to the unknown nature of this incident when it occurred, with a petrol tanker, the product can either all burn out and you don't have a significant impact onto the environment, or the product can channel directly into an area that will be significantly impacted. We appointed an environmentalist to attend to the scene immediately to map and trace any flow paths that the product may follow. However, luckily the product did not migrate off-site. Absorbents and degreasers were applied to the road surface to ensure that there was no hydrocarbon impact on it, which could cause secondary incidents as the hydrocarbons would remain a slip hazard if not cleaned correctly. This project is still ongoing, however it should be concluded shortly. Our perception is often that tankers that are exploding on freeways is the huge hazchem risk. That is the bigger environmental risk where your cost comes in. However, between these two vastly different claim scenarios, the more expensive and extensive cleanup was actually the wash bay, which was caused by a small mishap rather than a huge accident on the freeway. So it just goes to show, you never know what you're in for when it comes to transporting or storing dangerous goods. You just need to make sure that you're prepared, you've got the correct cover in place, the right partners, and that you respond immediately.
Thank you for joining us. Please read the articles, answer the few questions to obtain your CBD points, and please look out for our next webinars, which will be following shortly. You're welcome to contact us if you have any questions or queries.